Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you. I am working with a file from the Cut Shop today. This is the file that I'm working with. It's called Butterfly Wings, and I use it in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to be scrapping a picture about butterflies, and I'll tell you the story a little bit more later. And at this point, I hadn't really decided what my photo was going to be. It was going to be one of those two. So one of the things that I did is I put in my Silhouette software the cut file, and I cut it out on white cardstock. And then what I was showing you there is I also had used a sketch pen and had my Silhouette Cameo write out the journaling for me. So I typed it up, and there's a technique that you can use, and I'll link that. Actually, if you look in the upper right corner, you should see that. That will allow you to go ahead and put text in any shape. So I went ahead and had the text be in the shape of the butterfly, wider than the butterfly is. So it is a little bit bigger than the actual butterfly that I'm going to be backing here right now. So what I'm doing now is I am using papers from Paige Evans Horizon, and I am cutting out, I'm tracing around and cutting out each little section. So I think I end up using like 5 different papers, and I'm using these big papers because they had the least amount of detail. I don't know what to say. They're the B sides, and so they don't have as much going on the page. They're just a little bit less of a it's a more subtle pattern. And so I use those big pieces, but if you saw the way I was cutting around, I made sure to keep the edges intact so that if I want to use those as a border for a different layout, I can still use it as a border for a layout. So I didn't cut clear out to the edge. I hope that makes sense. Well, anyway, so now I am just going ahead and gluing everything down. And through the magic of YouTube, you're going to see how I glue it to it, and then I cut around if there's anything like that I missed or whatever. And so I glued the blue down, and then I cut around the edges that were kind of off a little bit. And there, now it's done. And I, at this point now, have decided on the portrait style photo, partly because I really like the photo better, but also because it's portrait style. One of the tricky things about this layout was that because I did the journaling the way that I did, it meant that I could not cover that up. So I had to be careful when I was embellishing and things like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm using this gorgeous paper as a border, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut out that center so that I can use it on another layout. There's a lot going on already on this page, and it's an important story to me. And so in a little bit here, I'll tell you what the journaling says. And so I really didn't want to embellish too much, so I went back and forth between trying to decide what to do. And then the other part of this was during this part where I did some splattering, you'll see me come in with a paper towel and take off any splatters that get onto my journaling. So this is what my journaling around the outside says. It says, when we realized my father's death was imminent, we had to think about how to approach this with B. While I was at the hospital with Dad, Charlie talked with B about death. Among other things, they talked about how everything in the universe gets recycled. Everything is made of energy, and energy never dies. That was in March. As Dad's health ebbed and flowed over the next few months, there were more talks about and conversations of preparation. Less than a week before his death, Charlie found this butterfly in the Dollar General parking lot. He was not well, and neither was Dad. This butterfly stayed with us. He wasn't able to fly, and so he was carried around the house, the yard, and even went in the car with us. He slept on freshly cut flowers from the garden. A few days later, Dad passed. For whatever reason, Bee was convinced that the butterfly had some connection with her grandpa. Every time we see a monarch butterfly, we think of him and hope he is watching us. So that was, as you can see, that was probably a pretty important story for me to tell, and I wanted to be able to tell it with as much detail as possible. And so I needed to have a good chunk of journaling. And sometimes I do that with hidden journaling. In this case, I thought I would just build it right into the design. Um, and so what I'm doing now is I'm taking and I'm adding some more butterflies to the layout. I'm taking the same papers and I use two different sized punches to cut out some butterflies that I'm going to spread around the page. So I'm ready to start gluing things down, and so I decided to just go ahead and get the background all ready to go. So my title is Release. A friend of mine helped me come up with that title. I thought it was perfect. Once, as soon as she said it, I was like, yep, that's it. It has kind of a couple of different meanings, with this story. So, and I decided to go ahead and put it kind of at an angle. And I realized that I am covering up a lot of that um, part of the butterfly that I backed, the cut file, but I don't really care. I think it's still, you can tell that it's there. You know that it's there because you know what butterflies are like and that they are symmetrical and all of that. So, not a big deal to me. More important that I don't cover up the story. So what I'm doing now, like I said, I didn't want to put a ton of embellishments, but I wanted to add some more color. And so I'm making a rainbow of color behind this photo using tangled thread. And so I'm kind of trying to mimic what you're seeing around the outer edge of the layout. That border goes kind of in a rainbow. And so like where there's green up at the top, I'm putting green, and where there's kind of that aqua teal color, I'm putting that, and where there's blue, I'm putting that, and so on. And so I just kind of went all the way around the picture, the photograph, with the different colors of thread to add some texture, give it a home to sit on besides the butterfly, and add some color, because even though in some ways this is a sad story, um, it's also a happy story, because it, for whatever reason, this has really helped me understand um, or make sense of her first grandparent loss. And so that I just thought I liked the idea of using the happy cherry colors, because there's happy cherry colors in the photograph, and then also it just helps with the story, plus the whole idea of a rainbow and promise and all of that um, kind of factored in as well. So what I did is I just went around and I ended up just using the little butterflies, and I didn't use any of the big ones. And now I am also, again, kind of mimicking the color, or copying the color that goes around the outside, and the thread. So where there's blue thread or there's blue around the outside, that's blue butterflies, and so on. And so I'm just kind of going around and placing them on either side of the text. Once again, it was a little tricky because of the placement of the text, um, but it ended up working out. So after I got all this done, I just didn't quite feel like this part was finished. And so I found this paper that's in the collection that I really like. It has tons of different phrases on it. And so I thought I would grab a few of the phrases and just kind of add a little bit to a few more little sentiments to the layout. And so I grabbed one that says "this moment," and I put that right under release. So you could read it as "release this moment" if you wanted to. And then underneath that, I put "amazing." And then towards the bottom, I'm going to put 3 strips. I thought it added to the design of the page, but I really liked the words too. One says "loving," one says "spectacular moment," and "please last forever." And then the one over by the butterfly that's kind of by itself over on the right, that one, I put a phrase that says "I love you." So this was a hard one for me to make, because it was important to me and I wanted it to look just right. And I'm not sure that it looks just right, but it works for now. And if I make another story about this one at another date, it will also look good. But now you might know the story of why I put butterflies on most of Bee's layouts now. Um, so here are the close-ups. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for stopping by, and I will for sure see you in the next video.